All right, so good evening, everybody. This is an episode of Tier Talk. First and foremost, I want to say free Matthew Baker Jr. That's always going to be the standpoint. And for anybody watching this video, I would appreciate if you take 2 to 3 seconds of your time and turn on your camera and make a video that says free Matthew Baker Jr. For anybody who knows me, I'm asking you, you should trust my word. But for anybody who wants a little confirmation that the young man is innocent and that he's held with no evidence, you can go on YouTube and put in Matthew Baker Jr., Henry County, or put in Jacob Koski. And Jacob is spelled J-A-C-O-B. His last name is Koski, K-O-S-K-Y. And it will pop up the court proceedings. And you will see that Jacob Koski took a 100+ year deal and to escape the death penalty. And therefore, Matthew Baker should have been immediately let go. He's only been held because of no evidence, but because of a DA that says that she feels that Matthew Baker Jr. has some type of role in the crime. There's no penal code for that. So anyway, free Matthew Baker Jr. and let's get into this interview. How you doing, Omi?
Hey, how you doing, brother? All right.
Tonight we have the pleasure of having one of my close partners. His name is Faheem, and he's coming to us from San Diego. He served quite a long time in prison. We actually served some of that time together, and so anyway, just for people to know, just tell them who you are and where you coming from, man.
My name is Brother Faheem, man. I'm coming up out of San Diego, California. Met my boy Larry, man. We was doing time and I think what was that, a Sad F, and I seen him walking past the basketball court, man. But I'm a good judge of characters, man. I've been doing this time for a long time. So when I run across good people, I could, I could run across them real, in a real way,
Yes, sir.
So we hooked up, man, and everything's been good since then, Real solid person, real solid individual, got out, got himself together, and just a good dude all the way around the board,
That's right. I appreciate that, brother. And I have to say the same for you too. When we met, it was a good thing, Everybody was they were spooked. Big D coming out of Faheem coming. But yeah, man, it was a blessing that we got to meet each other, and we had a lot of good times, and we're gonna have some greater times. But let's get on into this interview, man. So how long did you serve inside of the California Department of Corrections?
I actually served 14 and a half years, almost close to 15 years.
Okay, yeah. So we just gonna call it 15 or even 15. And with that being said, so when you serving your time, what majority of the time you was what level was you? Level 2, 3, 4? What was you?
No, the majority of the time that I served was level 4. I was on level 4 for the majority of the time, and then I ended up getting my points down, and they sent me to out of state correctional facility on the level 3.
Yeah.
Then from the 3, I went back to the 4, and then got my points down again, and then went back down to 3.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So now, during the course of your time, man, I mean, we both have saw each other grow and become better people. Tell me a little bit about who you were and who you are.
When I first came to prison, that was back in 2007. I had actually, before I went to prison, I was in the California Youth Authority, and a lot of things happened there. When I went to the California Youth Authority, I was framed by the police, so that's the original reason why I went to the California Youth Authority, because I was framed by the San Diego Police Department. And so when I got out, I had got myself involved with some things because it was hard for me to trust people and stuff like that. So then I ended up getting involved with some criminal behavior, and it led me to come to prison. So I caught a 17-year and 8-month sentence for a robbery. I did a robbery, to support my addiction at that time, and I made some bad choices. So I ended up coming to prison for the first time. And when I first came to prison, I had to learn, it was a lot. It was like a learning process. You in this big old warehouse with a lot of different people. I called it OT, I call prison OT because it's kind of like you out of town because you meeting so many different people and everybody from everywhere. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
you really had to come into prison and learn the rules. You know what I mean? You couldn't just come in there and make your own rules. You got to learn what's going on in here, learning how to survive. You got to learn how to pack a knife every day. You got to learn how to be able to take care of yourself. And,
Yes,
it was
sir.
just a lot, that I learned when I came in here. You know what I mean? When I
Yeah.
first came to prison, and it was just so much, man. That like I don't know. It's to this day, man. I still reflect like the way I move out here now, even though I've been free for like probably about 60 days now. I'm still very vigilant. I'm watchful. You know what I mean? I watch body movements. I watch the way people talk, the way they move their hands around me. And it could be a good thing too, you know what I mean? Because you never know who you're around, you know what I mean?
Exactly.
So yeah, so when I came to prison, I just learned a lot, man. I had to learn from some older people. I always sit around the older dudes in prison because I was like, when I first got here, I'm like, I'm not just gonna sit up under people that's my age because people my age just came in like me. So I'm gonna sit around these people that's been in here since 70, since the 80s, you know what I mean? Because they've been through this. So I sat around some of those dudes, man, and I learned a lot, in prison. You know what I mean? I learned a lot to walk around with a frown on your face and keep a smile on you, you know what I mean? Because people always, pick up things, when you act a certain way. So my cousin, he taught me a lot. But yeah, I learned a lot, man, since I've been in here. And it's just been a lifelong, process for me. You know what I mean?
So what's the difference from you then and the difference to you now? I mean, how did you grow? I mean, not going into courses or things like that, but I'm saying, you know,
Right,
we're here to evolve, and the Creator desires us to evolve. So I know, I mean, because I've seen you evolve. So
right.
I mean, explain to them, the viewers, how did you evolve from being a careless person to being a careful or a caring person?
Right. So what happened was I've always been, practicing Muslim, at a young age, but I really was young, so I really didn't grasp it and hold on to it the way I was supposed to. But when I came to prison, I was involved in so much corruption because prison breeds corruption. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
It teaches you how to be the best drug dealer, it teaches you how to be the best hustler. It teaches you how to be the most violent person in there because that's all we got and that's all we know. So you're around so many people that's like this that you have to be this way. You know what I mean? You have to be violent when you come to prison. You got to be the biggest drug dealer because that's the only way you're gonna get the respect.
yeah,
You know what I mean? So I just knew in my mind, like, I don't want to get out. I don't want to come to prison with a 17-year sentence and then come out the same way that I came in. So I just started looking for different things, and I said, you know what? Let me get back on my religion. Let me do something positive for myself, and let me do something positive for my kids and my mother, for the good people that's out there that support me while I'm in here. So then I started getting it within Islam, and then I started praying in it. When you pray, if you're a person who constantly prays, every day, or you spend a substantial amount of time praying, your actions is gonna start changing because you're dealing with the Creator now. So, not saying I'm perfect, but I just kept praying. I kept praying through all of my trials and my tribulations while I was in there, and then my actions started changing. I used to be a real time big, drug dealer in prison. Coming up and stuff, man, and I just felt like, if I didn't use drugs no more and I wanted to better myself, then I felt like, I was doing the devil's work by continuously giving people poison. Like, why would I give you something that I didn't want for myself? So then I started changing that aspect about me. And I didn't use drugs or give it to nobody or even deal with it no more. You know what I mean? But now it's like, I put Islam, huh?
no, I didn't say that. Go ahead, I'm
Oh
listening.
yeah, well now like it's like I put Islam at the forefront, you know what I mean? And I've learned a lot just being stuck inside those cells every day. Like you can sell as much dope as you want to. You can be the most violent person as you want to. If you keep going down that hole, see, it's gonna make you crazy.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? It's gonna make you lose your mind. You know what I mean? Being in those cells like that and stuck inside those cells. So I just started praying for my freedom. I knew the COs wasn't gonna give me my freedom. You know what I mean? A lot of things happened with my family. I lost my mom. Back in 20, I think it was 2020. And when COVID first, came around, she ended up passing away. And my mom, she was like my best friend. So, once that happened, I just was like, man, I got to get out of here. I got to get out of here because I started feeling like, the walls was closing in on me. I thought I wasn't going to never come home. I thought I'd never be able to see the freedom again. So I just kept
yeah,
praying to God. I'm like, God, please help me out here. That became my best friend. So a lot of my prayers and the things in which I wanted, God answered them. You know what I mean? And He didn't answer them when I felt like I wanted them to be answered. He answered them when He felt like it was best for me. And so it's like now that I'm being free, I'm taking every step, and I'm still continuously making my prayers. And now I'm just thinking like, man, God bless me with all of this stuff because I couldn't have never had it again.
Yeah.
So I'm just grateful now, you know what I mean, to have good people still to run back into you, for a chance. You know what I mean? Like I'm out here, you out there on the streets. I never thought that was ever gonna happen.
Yes, sir.
I didn't know I was going to be able to see you again. I'm like, this was a prison phase. You got out, but you stayed contacting with us though. You know what I mean? You was like a big brother to a lot of us in there because you hadn't been through a lot of stuff. You know what I mean? So I can say for sure you was a mentor to me as well. You know what I mean? And you kind of helped me
Appreciate that.
within with me changing and myself, because you talked to me, you had those conversations with me, man. I remember sitting at yourself for 2 or 3 hours, like, look, brother, this is what you got to do. You know what I mean? When I made a bad decision and it was like, I looked up at you like you was one of my big cousins or one of my big uncles, man. Growing up, like, look, this is what you do. Don't do this way. And the outcome gonna be different for you, Faheem. And I kept those thoughts. I kept those conversations that we had. So that's how I started changing my process. You know what I mean?
That's what's up. That's what's up. I appreciate that accolade, man. Yeah, one thing I can say
Absolutely.
about you, if you did mess up, you own it and you always tried hard to repair it or try to get better or do better at whatever you did wrong. And always knew and always saw you as a brother that was seeking enlightenment and trying to better himself. And that's why we had those conversations, because also you do know that I ain't mess with too many brothers, especially I try you once or twice. And if you wasn't trying to go down the right path, I'm like, okay, hey, how you doing? Way over there. But
right.
yeah, man. So like I say, I'm glad that you made it from behind them gun guarded gates and walls. And so let's talk about being behind them walls, though. Let's go into COVID before we deal with anything, because it's finna take off again, as we see, especially you're seeing down there in Southern California.
Right.
The COVID
Right.
numbers are
Absolutely.
spiking, and here it's kind of like, but down there I know it's high. But
Right.
with that being said, so when COVID hit and you were in prison, and it really hit, not just the beginning, like not just February, March of 2020. Of 2020. Like April, May, and then when June came, and then July,
Right.
the summer, when it really got to hitting the prisons and shit went on lockdown and
Right.
governor put everything on lockdown. And how did you see it, and how did it affect you, and how could you see the officers wearing or not wearing masks, everything?
Oh yeah, man, it was all bad. Look, honestly, man, I was a health facility maintenance worker. They ended up giving me a job, and I've been trying to get this job. It was crazy, man, because have been trying to get this job for a long time, man. And it seemed like right when COVID hit, oh yeah, you could come work now. You know what I mean? So I'm like,
You can add a
I
job
was like,
now.
all right, man. Yeah, you can have a job now. You know what I mean? So, I took the job, man, because I thought it was going to help me to be able to get the milestones that I needed to be able to come home. Because in prison, you're only able to get into so many programs that offer milestone credits for people to get home. You know what I mean? And it's a
Yeah,
long list. And so I ended up getting into it, man. And I ended up learning and stuff, man. But then when the COVID spiked, man, it was bad, brother. Like, it was like, man, I've seen so many people. They say, like, inside the nursing station, they would have this board, it was like a board that kind of looked like this,
yeah,
and they would have every person, they would have like lines of everybody who was infected with COVID. The whole board was filled. And I was like, wow, this is crazy. And I was just seeing people like different inmates and stuff crawling on the ground sick,
yeah,
and the nurses came, they would just leave them inside of a cage and lock the door on them, man. Older guys, they was just sitting there crying for their life, man. And I actually found myself in tears a couple times, man, like witnessing this. And
yeah,
I've
man.
actually got into it with some officers in there, like, man, why y'all don't get this dude? Won't you help him? Why y'all just leaving him like that? He tore up, man, like he about to die in there. Oh, it
Man.
ain't nothing we can do. It ain't nothing we can do. They ain't wearing a mask. They telling us enforcing the rules on us, but they not following the rules.
Oh
And
no, see,
it was just a
I
lot
see.
going. Uh-huh.
And you happen to be in a facility where it's a little more structured than where I was at the time. So they
Right.
really was tripping. I already know where you at, on that level 3, level 4 type
Right.
facility. And
Right.
the fucked up thing is, though, they don't do shit, and then they don't wear their mask, and they the one bringing it in. and then they just leave a motherfucker to sit in the cell and die. You know?
Right. That's exactly what they was doing, man. And it was people that was dying, man. I mean, it was a couple of people that I knew that I used to go to visits with and stuff, man. They was here one day, the next day they was gone. You know, and it was just a lot of malpractice, man. Right before I came here, one of the qualifications in order to get here was that you have to go on quarantine, you have to take a COVID test. So when they told me I was up to leave, I had to fight to get here. But when I did finally fight, so they told me that I was supposed to go to quarantine building to start my my 2-week quarantine before I'm able to transfer out the facility.
Yeah.
So they had told me on that Friday, no, that Monday they took a COVID test from me because you gotta test twice before you can leave. So they did the initial screening, and then they kept me inside of the building that was already people had already had COVID inside the building where I was at. So then I'm like, in my mind, like if y'all would have just followed the procedures and took me to 20 block and isolated me, I would have never caught COVID in here. So by them not following their procedures and stuff, they came back 4 days later. It was like, oh, we messed up. We were supposed to isolate you. So then I end up catching COVID. So then once I caught COVID, I had to go to the gym because that's part of isolation. When I was in the gym, it was just like a circus in there. You know what I mean? They just house everybody up top of bunks everywhere. No medical staff coming in there. Only time they come in there is to check your temperature, then they leave. You know what I mean? So once I tested positive, I'm already positive now. So then I had to leave the gym, and my release date was supposed to have been that Monday, which was, I think, like somewhere at the beginning of February.
Yeah.
So then they put me back inside of 20 blocks that I have to go through the whole process over again. Why do I have to go through this whole process over again? So I actually spent over like almost 40 days in isolation. And that was worse than actually being in a hole. It's worse than being in the SHE.L.P program because you only get 15 minutes to come out for a shower, and that's every other day.
Yeah.
And you get your phone call. You can get phone calls, and that's it. And
But
it's
you
like
locked up in that cell all damn day, though.
Terrible, bro. Terrible. That was the most terriblest time I ever did since I've been in prison. I've been in prison almost 15 years. And that last 60 days that I did in prison was the worstest time I ever did since I, been locked up, brother.
That's crazy.
You know what I'm saying?
So for the viewers, let them know where you actually are so they can understand too when you keep saying when you went there, so they'll understand.
Oh, okay.
You are at MCRP. So my folks, Faheem is actually at MCRP. So tell them what that is.
Well, MCRP is a male community reentry program, and basically what it does is just gets you reintegrated into back to society slowly. And I actually think that this is a good program, and I think that they should have did this for people a long time ago. They should even implement something like this for the people that's in prison. Some of these programs and some of the things that they teach us in here. We need some of these facilitators. Like I've learned more about mental health since I've been in this program than I ever did since I've been in prison.
That's crazy.
It's like I went through a whole course. And I got a certificate. It was only an 8-hour class that I went to and got a certificate. I could become a mental health representative or to be able to help somebody or be able to spot when somebody's going through suicide. Exactly. And it only took 8 hours, but why did I have to come here to get it? I could have got this long time in prison and been able to help some of the guys that was in prison.
Well, the thing is, though,
mental health issues.
You have to remember, if they provide it in prison, that means that they're really trying to solve the answer. They're not trying to solve the answer because you got to remember too, you are $100,000+ a year in prison. You're just your body.
Right.
It don't matter if you take a program. It don't matter if you program. You $100,000+ a year.
And I've seen so many, even when I was in prison doing my incarceration, right? I've seen so many people OD off of drugs. And when they OD off drugs, one of the questions that came to my mind often was, why would somebody OD off of a drug? They almost just lost their life. You just throw them right back in the cell with no prevention plan. They don't give them no pamphlets. They don't put them inside no classes or nothing. They just
so now we're gonna skip off of COVID and let's talk about the drug addiction program that they provide in CDC, because a lot of people don't understand that what CDC has done is learned how to addict people to drugs that they push, and then they get you off of the drugs that come from the streets, so to speak, the free world. So we'll talk about Suboxone. So we know Suboxone is supposed to be an inhibitor that once you ingest it, it's supposed to block your inhibitors so you can't get high off of no drugs whatsoever. But what people fail to understand is Suboxone give you the same high as any drug that you do. Suboxone gets you high as a motherfucking kite, and anybody can go get it. All you had to do is say, I did drugs before, over here. Right. And they can give it to you. And I mean, and not just
Suboxone. I've seen people get more sick, man. Basically, when they get off Suboxone, man, then off of heroin. You know,
man. I was talking to this correctional dude, right? I'm gonna keep his name out of it, cool cat. And he was making a comment about some comments I made about the Suboxone, and he was saying like, no, it's actually there to help. You know, you're only speaking of a small number of people. I'm like, man, every prison that I've been to, Suboxone is in. I just was in the county jail. Suboxone is there. People are breaking their necks to get on Suboxone. People who ain't never did hard drugs is learning the script, going up in there and saying, hey, look, I did hard drugs before. This is what I was told to say. Can I get Suboxone? They're going to say, yeah. You know what I'm saying? And they taking that shit and they doing that shit the same way they did whatever else they was doing, whether they smoking it, slamming it, or whatever. And the prison is providing it, and the prison is getting the profit off of it. You know, they getting a portion of the funding coming in. And then it's a case study anyway, because it's brand new. All that shit is experimental. But I mean, now let's talk about this. So I know while you guys were on lockdown in the facility you were housed at, which is R.J. Donovan, for anybody listening, where he just paroled from. I think it was like 6 people died of drug overdoses, but they didn't have visits. No, nothing.
Exactly.
And they tried to say because the officers weren't doing nothing.
Right.
Go ahead. Say what
that's what's going. But see, that's what's going on in there is that you get these people that, you know, they opportunities. Everybody become an opportunist, you know, when it comes to these prisons and stuff. And they always think that it's the inmates. They point the finger, that's the inmates, it's the inmates, it's their family with Titan visiting it up. They ain't got nothing to do with it. You know what I mean? They hiring these staff. And what they doing is hiring these staff, and these staff know that it's money in here. It's $1 billion black market within the prison industry. A lot of people may know it, may not know it. And what's happening is you got these staff and you know that's coming in here and they saying, hey, listen, check this out. You know, I'll do this. I'll bring this to you. Just pay me. No, you ain't got to pay me up front. You can pay me later.
Yeah.
You can pay me later. You know what I mean? So it's like in my mind, you know, I started looking at it like, wow, the game is deep. The game is deep, and they allowing this stuff to happen. They know what's going on around here, but it's cops and robbers. It's cops and robbers, but they know what's going on. They gonna allow it for a certain amount of time.
So much money gets generated too, right? That it doesn't even become cops and robbers. It just become, here goes some money, look the other way. Here goes some money, look the other way.
Exactly.
You know, like when we was in SATF, before I had got to SATF, they had kicked the warden up out of there for stealing money and buying trucks and all kinds of shit that I had heard about. And he had like 6 of the cops on his payroll. And you know, like I know too, prison has become like a Mexican gang, really. No, all bullshit.
Absolutely. No,
and like I was just saying the other day when I was talking to you, I really looked at the demographic of the breakdown, right, of races of staff that work there. It's like 12 to 14,000 Hispanic staff members. And then it's like a few thousand white and a few thousand black and then others. So they've taken over the prison system. And I'm not talking about them like bad, but I'm saying like, you know what I'm saying. You've experienced it being in Corcoran and the other places, or even in Donovan, when they push up on you like a homie from the streets and, what's up, man?
Hey, look, check this out. It's funny. It's funny you say it's funny you say that, right? Because when I first got to Lancaster after I left Oklahoma, I had a cellie. My cellie was from up the way where you from Compton, man. It was crazy story. I always tell people. So I'm sitting in the cell with him, right? He was telling me he had 3 murders that he had, you know, he beat, you know what I'm saying? He didn't do it or whatever, that he beat or whatever, right? So I'm sitting there chilling one day and the door popped. So I'm like, what's going on here? So the tower dude, he's standing at the top of the thing with the mini pointed at us. So I'm like, man, this shit crazy, right? What's going on? You know, BZ, like, I don't know. So CO come to the door with his hat cocked up, like he from the streets, So he said, "Hey man," he talking to Marcelli. He said, "Hey man, ain't you from Compton?" And Marcelli like, "Yeah, I'm from Compton." And he was like, "Where you from?" So Marcelli, told him where he was from, and he was like, "Yeah, I'm from Compton too." He said, "I know who you is." Right, and he just looked at him and he smiled. He said, "You better be on your best behavior," right? And he closed the door. So I'm like, "Damn, what was that about?" He said, "I told you what happened. They know who I am." So I said, "Wow, the game get deep, right?" So look, take long story short. So Marcelli, he ended up leaving and going to another place. So one day, we had to do something with somebody in prison one day, and me and my homeboy was fighting in the chow hall, right? So we fighting, and something my intuition said, "Look up." When I looked up, it was the same officer, man. That was tripping on my celly, my old celly. When I looked
Yeah,
up, he had the
yeah.
Glock gun pointed at my eye and shot me in the head right here. And it had nothing to do with me fighting because they could have used a less lethal method, pepper spray.
I
So they
mean,
tried to knock my eye out and shot me in the head.
you
Yeah,
already know they play dirty pool. You already know that, man. But
yeah,
the corruption is
yeah.
real because me myself, I won't say no names because the officers
Right,
I dealt with, they were straight. They always kept it cool with me.
right.
But they opportunists. They gonna push up on you,
Absolutely,
especially when you a person that's got
absolutely.
some influence or a lot of influence, and
Right.
if you intelligent, and they'll help you hide whatever they giving you, the whole shit, and
Yeah,
but then also the dirty part of the game is in
yeah,
the end, you know what happened, right? When
yeah,
that flame get to kindling by them feet, and they get to getting them hot
yeah.
feet, they run and they go tell
Yeah.
on themselves, or they go tell on you
Right,
and act like they're turning you in. You know what I'm saying?
right,
And
right.
personally, I've been through that a couple of times. I'm smarter than the average bear. They never catch me, but yeah, I went through
Yeah,
all that old same bullshit, and the corruption is real, man. Where like I was just saying, your prison was on lockdown, and you had all them people dying from drug overdoses, but ain't nobody, visits. And they kept saying, "Oh, the inmates." I read this article where a staff member said, "Well, the inmates, they put drugs in their body cavities." Yeah, but we ain't holding
right.
drugs in our body cavities for a year, though.
Right.
Like I know it's a
Exactly.
consumable, it's a consumable commodity. No matter what you bring in prison,
Right.
you're bringing it in to
Right.
get rid of it. You're not bringing it in to hold it during a pandemic. You know,
Right.
so
Just like with all those ladies too up there. I think they had that training facility. I was reading a couple years back when they had all those ladies up there who filed that lawsuit against the CDC because when they was going through their training, they were harassed by the male officers. They was
yeah,
making them do body cavity searches, whatever they was doing, and they ended up filing a lawsuit against the CDC. You know what I mean? So the CDC, when you in prison, man, you basically have to help yourself in there. If you ain't a
yeah,
strong,
for sure.
disciplined person, and if you got any mental health issues or you mentally challenged or whatever, bro, they taking advantage of you in there.
No,
They're not there to
completely.
help you. You know what I'm saying?
If you have any type of backbone or man issues, period, they're gonna take advantage of you. You
Right,
know that. And the coldest shit. The only way you're gonna get some respect is to be a person that has a storied history. You know what I'm saying? You have to catch them
right,
RBRs,
absolutely,
the 115s, and
right,
thump some heads or bump heads with them, even if need be, because the only thing they
right.
respect in there is aggression, because that's what they're taught.
That's it.
They're taught to be
That's it.
superior to you, and they want you to be
Absolutely,
inferior. And if you don't bow down and be
exactly.
inferior, then it's the clash of two ram heads, or 10 ram
Right.
heads from this way and one from this way.
Yeah,
There's always
yeah,
gonna be more of
yeah.
them than
Absolutely.
us. But
Right.
anyway, let's get back into this. So how did the toll of being in prison play on your family, man? Because I know you got a daughter that that was a very young child, basic infant, basically, when you got arrested. Just like me, I delivered my daughter the day I came to jail, and yeah, man, what kind of toll was that, man? I seen you in the visiting room. We used to be out the same time, chilling and being
Right.
daddy and all that.
Right.
But what's the
Right.
toll and what's the effect you see now when you're dealing with your child?
Oh, that's kind of funny you asked that, man. I didn't really notice it like until I really got out. But because prison teaches us to block away all emotions and as much as we can, to survive and try to get through this time. So when I got out, man, my youngest daughter, she's still suffering from that, man. And you know what I mean? For me being incarcerated all of her life. And she's very antisocial. You know what I mean? She doesn't really like talk to a lot of people, and it's a lot of work that I have to do to try to, but I'm gonna be here for her though to help her
Yeah.
repair from that. You know what I mean? And she tells me all the time. She said, "Well, Dad, a lot of stuff that I'm going through is because you wasn't there, and all I wanted was you to be there." You know what I mean? And it's like, damn, And when I was in prison, I was always trying to have my wife to bring her there with me, but she just got to the point where she didn't want to come to prison no more. She didn't want to see me locked up. She didn't want to see me caged up. Every time when she would leave, when she did come see me, she would be crying for hours, bro. Like, I want my daddy to come with me. I want my dad to
Yeah.
come with me. Tell him to come with me. And what happens is we go through our life because this whole system, it teaches you how to be, selfish to a certain extent. You know what I mean? And just to block everything away and block all your feelings away. So if you're trying to block your feelings away, other
You're
people's
blocking
feelings,
them
you
out.
gonna you gonna care about it, but exactly, but you blocking them out. So it's like, man, like now I really see it now. Like, she go through it, bro. Like, she like, if you are you gonna leave me again? That's the first thing. That's what she always when she said, Dad, she said, I always just be sitting here thinking, like, I wonder if you're gonna leave again. Is something gonna happen? Are you gonna be with me forever? Or you know what I mean? So I gotta try to make that possible now. So that's the reason why I'm taking the steps that I'm taking now. That's the reason why I went and found employment and got a job because I'm gonna do it the right way now because I don't want to leave my family again. You know what I mean? I don't want to be without her no more. You know what I mean? It's
No,
just
just
sad, bro.
that's
Like,
being a man, brother. That's
yeah,
responsibility. And that's also taking
right,
responsibility for your actions. I mean, because I mean, I know you personally. I mean, but this is also letting the world know that as a man, you stepped up to the plate as a man, and you've accepted responsibility. And then during your time, I mean, you saw your daughter for the majority of the time. Her, growing a little older and saying, "Hey, I don't want to come to visit." That happened a couple of years, 2-3 years ago. So that's, but and outside of that, now you're there and you're doing what you're supposed to, and I do commend you, and I can say I'm proud of you, and I
thank
like
you.
the path that you on, and please stay on that path, because it's just a day at a time. That's all it takes. Don't
Right,
rush to nothing. Sometimes I beat myself up, and I be like, "Oh, you should be doing this, and why ain't you done that?" But then I always have to remind myself, I ain't even been out of prison a year. I'm doing damn good,
right,
you know, and
right, right,
And I mean, and just the fact of being free and just being a productive member of society and then being a father, um,
right.
people
Absolutely.
people have to understand that you did all that time, but you're where you are and you were able to get that early kick and go to that program because you stayed out of trouble. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Um,
Well, look, I'm not even gonna say because of that though, right? Because I started getting angry, bro. When my mom died, honestly, I was going up, man. I had a resisting arrest, man, not too long ago. But and that's one
but
thing I learned from you too, that you
wait,
gotta,
hold
you,
on.
you gotta,
You did me? You pulled a me?
yeah, yeah, man. I was tripping, man. I was tripping, man. When my mom died, man, I couldn't handle it. You know what I mean? And
No,
I
I
started,
get it,
getting in a
brother.
lot of trouble.
I get
But
it.
I had a resisting, but one thing I learned was you have to know the book, the Title 15. That became my best friend. So it wasn't that they let me come. It's just that I knew the rules. And one of the
Yeah,
rules was that you had to have a Division A. You couldn't have a Division A through C offense. It didn't say nothing about C status. It didn't say nothing about Division D's. It said no suable offenses. So what I did was looked at all the regulations and the rules in there. And I said, wait a minute, y'all can't deny me even if I did have two 115s back to back because that's not in the rules. So basically, they was like, "Well, the inmate is right. He's correct." You know what I mean? So then they have to end up letting me go. But it was a fight for me to get here every day. Every day I had to keep fighting. But yeah, I kind of lost it when my mom passed away, bro. Like I just felt like just terrible. You know what I'm saying? Like this lady has been a part of my rehabilitation, and I tried to get to the funeral when I only had a couple years left at the time. And they basically led me up to make it seem like we're gonna let you go. We're gonna let you go. Then they got disrespectful with my family. Oh, they ain't got no rights and hung up on my family. So I said, okay, that's what I'm just gonna do me then. So I just started doing me, man. I started getting caught up with the phones and You know what I mean? Doing little stuff with cell phones and stuff like that. And they just kept harassing me, you know what I mean? Like getting on me about it. And I take responsibility for it. You know what I mean? It is what it is, you know?
Nah, but also they got to take responsibility for their actions and their callousness, because I know,
Right.
I know firsthand, like when my bro died, and you was there for
Right.
me. You comforted me. You talked to me for a long time. And I was trying to break the phone that day when I found out. And
Yeah, I
my
remember
wife
that.
had told me my brother passed. That just like instantly, it crumbled me. But the thing
Right, I
that
remember
hurt
that.
me most was that they didn't even tell me. It took them days to even come tell me
Exactly.
that my brother had died. And they knew this was the
Right.
fucked up thing, because they
Right.
found out on their own, because they saw how distraught I was and they didn't want a motherfucker acting an ass. But then my
Right.
wife had called the facility and told them, hey, by the way, my husband's brother died. But wait for it. They found out, they went and did their research, and then they still didn't tell me for like 2-3 days. And they called me up in there and was like, oh, yeah, we're going to let you make a phone call. And they called my wife. And I talked to her for a quick second. I hung up the phone and clownched everybody in office. And but they couldn't do nothing but accept it, because I'm like, at the end of the day, a life has been lost and y'all don't give a fuck. But
Yeah, exactly.
if somebody else in your family's life has been lost, or a victim that you chose to support, and you want to get to talking some victim advocate stuff, then you care about that death. But
Right.
if our family members die,
Right.
you don't care. And yeah, it's my fault
They
that I
don't.
committed crime and I wasn't there and I wasn't able to be there. But have some fucking compassion. You know what I'm saying? And it's like,
Right.
especially like in your case, because your case was a little different than mine, because I did ask about, oh, hey, how can I go to the funeral? And they was like, oh, yeah, this is how you can do it. Remember my boss Sanchez, or Super Carp Sanchez?
Yeah. Yeah.
He told
Yeah.
me, he was like, oh,
Yeah.
this is how you can do it. And I'm going to go look it up. And then he went and said something to somebody. Nigga, ISU came to my cell bright and early in the morning and was like, yeah, don't even think about it. It was like, we're sorry that your
Yeah.
brother died. We know that you just went over there and pissed dirty. We know you got pot in your system.
Right.
We're going to let you beat that RVR.
Right.
You ain't going to his funeral. Don't even think
Yeah.
about it. But
And one thing I want to see change too, brother. One thing I want to see change, and I don't know if you got, connections, or what I mean, to be able to do that, is that cell phone write-up thing got to change in prison, bro.
like what? What do you mean?
Well, I always looked at it like this. Prison is curbed to stop pretty much violence. You know what I mean? You got people that's nonviolent in prison and stuff like that, but the main thing is the violence. That's what the community want people to get away from, is the violence, the violent act. So I looked at it like, you can go in prison and beat somebody down on the yard right now, beat them up. You stay out of trouble for 60 days, 90 days, you get the time back. You
Yeah.
get caught with a cell phone and there's nothing violent about it.
Wait, hold
You
on.
can't even get the time back.
You can stab a person in prison and you can get 65% of your time back.
Exactly.
So I totally agree, because and they made the step right when they took it from dangerous contraband to just regular contraband, right? But at the end of the
Right.
day, there is a thing that they're trying to propose about the cell phones again,
Right.
because they come in with the tablets where you can call from your cell and all that. So now they try to make it back. They're not trying to make it dangerous contraband again, because that would make them look stupid. Now they're trying to make it escape paraphernalia. So what they're saying is, and I don't want to say it wrong, but what it says is, and I think this is Texas that's trying to do it first, because Texas was the first state to give somebody time for a cell phone, and the feds out there, they gave a motherfucker 60 years. But so what they're saying is that if they go, and he had it hooped.
I want to use that, bro.
Yeah, exactly, right?
Yeah.
So,
wow.
What they're saying is, if they go in the phone and you have pictures of the facility, the cell, the day room, things of the prison, they're gonna get your ass for escape. If not, then they just
they're going back to that, because they're going back to that old shit where you can't have maps and all that shit. Remember that? Yeah, I get it.
Bro, listen, wait.
Yeah.
I was writing a book, right? While I was just locked up. And I had forgot some names of streets, like in different parts of Compton, that I really don't be in. Like, well, the ex-enemigo territory. So I had told wifey, I was like, yeah, baby, send me the map of the south part of Compton, and send me the map of this. So she printed it out and sent it to me. Man, they threatened to write me a RVR. And I never received it. It was like, what are you doing? Why are you trying to get maps? And I'm like, what are you talking about? It was like, what are you planning? And I'm like, man, did you look at the map? All they saw was that she sent me pages of maps. But I'm like, look at the shit. So I forget the lady's name is Miss Lujan. She was the internal affairs lady at San Quentin. She looked at the shit. She started laughing. She dropped the shit on the table and she said, it's up to you guys if you let him have it. And she left. So then when they looked at it, and they was like, oh, this is just maps of Compton. I'm like, man, you got me in the cage. I'm finna be cuffed. I'm finna go to the hole for escape paraphernalia. It ain't nothing but a map of Compton. Even if it was a map of Marin County, I got to get, what the map of the streets gonna do for me to get out of prison? That shit don't make no sense, man. That's just another way to stop shit coming in. That's just another way to cause issues with mail. You know what I'm saying? Because it's not just maps that they banned. When they put the maps on there, they put 27 more books on the banned book list. It's all kinds of stuff that they don't put on the ban list. So, yeah, man. So, how long you got to do with the MCRP, man? Let them know what the MCRP is about before we end this, man.
MCRP is just, it's a program, and they get you. It's like a workforce, man. So they get you ready with your resumes, man. They help you with life skills, social skills, anger management. We're taking all these different groups every day. They help you with your ID, your social security card. You meet new people. It's a real positive program, and a lot of people is benefiting, from being at this program. If you're ready to come home and you on the right course, like this is a program that you really want to get into, especially
so now
the people
let me
that's
ask you
locked
this.
up. If you can,
Let me say this. So how big is that facility? How many people they house there?
I think it's about 150.
So like a small dorm. So now just imagine if they had that same type of training for parole officers, or they had this same type of component attached to parole and probation officers, right? They do have it at a probation office, because that's the program I just went to when I put the video up on the YouTube account. So they do have a similar program, but this is something that they need to grow, because it's something that's good, and it's something that's a beneficial program, because here it is, they got you, and just for the listeners, they got the homie D-Loc in San Diego at the program. And he done went through CPR trainings and all kinds of different trainings, and he done went and got vocational training. He done went and got alcohol and other drug and mentor trainings, and things that he can use that makes him a viable commodity in the workforce. And I believe that
I went on my first interview that I had, and I got hired on the first interview.
That's what's up.
My very first one, you know what I mean? So yeah, man.
That's the job that you didn't want to take, though, right? That's the one you didn't want to take?
Right.
Yeah. But you
and
took
my
the
second
other
job, I got hired as well.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. You took the second job, though. Yeah, for sure. And then, just for the listeners, understand that he gave up a job that was paying way more than the job that he accepted, because he's being responsible and he was thinking ahead. One, because the job is closer to his home, but two, it's the environment that the other job is in. And instead of having himself in a situation that could just turn into anything because you can't control other people's actions, he's thinking with a forethought. He's thinking and he's being responsible, and he's using that daddy factor and that husband factor and just being a man, and he making the right choices and decisions. And sometimes you got to take that minor loss, in order to make that great step forward, and yeah, we're gonna end it here, man. I appreciate the time. We'll do it again and again and again, and I'm gonna come down there and check you out soon. Hurry up and get out that goddamn program, man, so we can hang out and chill, man. Go sit on the pier down there, in Chula Vista with the poles in the water,
Yes, sir. I'm waiting on you, man. You know what I mean?
What's up, brother? That's what's up.
But it's a blessing, man. Thank you for having me, man. And
oh yeah, for
I
sure. All the
appreciate
time.
you.